And then tell me who you're representing here today, whether you're the applicant, owner, connected to either Bayer Becker, Auburn Land Holdings LLC, or someone else involved with the project, or a neighboring property owner or someone from the community. So I'll start with Brian Gaffney.
How you guys doing? I'm Brian Gaffney. I'm with Antunovich Associates. I'm the architect representing Core Spaces for the project on McMillan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Gaffney. And then I have someone under BP Plan ALP.
Hey, Brian Planop here from the Business Courier.
Okay, great. So I assume you'll just be observing here today, right, Brian?
Correct.
Got it. Okay, welcome. I see Olivia Paprick.
Yeah, I'm Olivia Paprick. I'm with Core Spaces, so we'll be representing the developer on the project.
Okay, great. Welcome. Mike Dooley.
Yeah, good morning. Mike Dooley with Bayer Becker. We're the civil engineer working with Core and Antunovich on the project.
Okay, great. And Doug Mormon.
Doug Mormon with Development Strategies Group. Good morning. We also represent Core Spaces on this project.
Great, welcome. Let's see, we have Wes Munzel here from the planning department. Welcome, Wes.
Morning.
Right. And Patrice, is that Burke?
Yep. I'm with Auburn Land Holdings. I don't know that I'll be speaking necessarily.
Okay, great. Welcome. And then I have a Thomas Rentas.
Yeah, Thomas Francis. I work with Core Spaces. I'll just be observing this meeting, however.
Okay, great. Welcome. And is Joe Gatto with us?
Yes. Hey, I'm with Core Spaces as well, and we'll just be observing.
Okay, great. All right, welcome everyone. On the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us here before we get started?
No, I think it's just us.
Okay, great.
I think Dan Schibberg might be joining for Auburn Land Holdings.
Okay, great. Well, do you want to wait for him or do you want to get started?
No.
Okay.
Let's get started.
Great. If anyone tries to join these meetings midway through, I typically will just let them in. If that happens, I'll just bring them in and take a second to get them checked in. All right, I need to read through our hearing script. This is the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll be able to begin. And it looks like Dan's trying to join us now. All right. Mr. Schimberg, are you with us? So if you could just unmute.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Welcome. We're just getting started here, just getting everyone checked in. Ms. Burke, I think mentioned that you are with Auburn Land Holdings. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read through our hearing script again. This is just the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So this is the April 2nd, 2025 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the city. I'll be presiding over the hearing today. The case before us is case number ZH20240157. I have the address as 1 East McMillan Street. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So for our purposes here today, I'll allow anyone who's connected with the project, who's worked on the project, who's here to advocate for the project, to speak during that time. One of you can speak, all of you can speak. Really pretty liberal on how you want to orient your presentation. So I'll leave that up to all of you, but that'll be an opportunity to tell me about the project, background you think is important, the zoning relief that you're requesting, and then of course, why you think that zoning relief is appropriate. If we did have anyone here from the general public, which I don't believe that we do at this time, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicants had presented their case. I'll then turn it over to the planning department. I'll allow Wes Menzel to provide any testimony in addition to a staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's some issue or technical difficulty that does not allow us to meaningfully go forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, the last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, asking any questions, making any comments, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, the zoning code requires me to swear you in. So if that's you and you know you'd like to provide some testimony here today, I'm going to go ahead and collectively swear all those people in together. Again, if you're just observing, you don't need to be sworn. And if you're not sure, you don't have to do it now. I can swear you in later. But if you know you'd like to provide something, if you could go ahead and take yourself off of mute, I need everyone to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Yes.
I do.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, everyone. All right, who's going to be taking the lead for us here on the applicant's presentation?
We're gonna have
I'm gonna
Brian.
be,
Yeah, perfect. We're gonna have Brian share screen. We have a really short presentation just to kind of go
Great.
through the project itself, and I'll kick it off, but Brian's gonna share.
Okay, great. Mr. Gaffney, the floor is yours, and feel free to share your screen.
thank you, guys. Do you guys see the screen now?
Yes.
I do.
All right, Olivia, you're up.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning and thanks for having us here again. My name again is Olivia Peprick. I'm the Associate Director of Development here at CORE. So I'll be leading the development along with the team members here all the way through the start of construction for CORE. And we just have a brief presentation here just to kind of go through exactly what we submitted to the city for the zoning relief. So Brian, if you might go to the next page. So I'm sure those of who are on the call are actually familiar with this, but we first want to take the opportunity to familiarize everyone with the location of the site. So we have the site highlighted here in the red. It's pretty adjacent or pretty close to the University of Cincinnati. The proposed project is at the corner of McMillan and Vine, as shown here, and our team will provide more detail on the building itself later. But what we are proposing is a student housing focused 2-tower building on top of a common parking garage that's carved into the sloping of the site. And we are looking to deliver this in time for the 2028 school year. Before we get into the project, I just wanted to give a little bit of a brief introduction to CORE itself and what we do. This slide, it is just kind of to show that we are a national student housing developer all over the country, just showing exactly what cities we've done work in. And we actually have done work within Cincinnati already. We just delivered the Hub Cincinnati 1 project this past year, excuse me, in Cincinnati, and that's shown here on the right. So we are familiar with the city itself. We are familiar with the process, but this is just a little bit different of a product for us in a different location. This slide, we'd just like to show exactly what we do, showing exactly what we like to produce in our projects. Always looking for the convenient location, which I think this checks that box. We always like to have the attainable living, having different types of units within the building, different ranges of building and amenities within, and having a progressive product. So we really like to focus on the design and the offerings within the building itself, which we believe that this offers to the residents. And then lastly, we've already done the quick introductions here, but the main team players who will be speaking on our behalf will be Doug Moorman from Development Strategies Group, who will be speaking regarding the any communications we've had with the community around us, and Tunovich, being the architect on the project, will speak to the design of the building itself and some of the zoning relief, and then Bayer Becker, being our civil, speaking to some of the additional zoning relief on their behalf. So I just wanted to give the quick introduction at the front. I'll be here to answer any questions about CORE itself and any plans moving forward, but I'll turn it over to to Doug, to speak on behalf of the community engagement.
Thank you very much, Olivia, and thank you, David. Just wanted to spend a few minutes putting this in a little bit of context as it relates to the community. As you are probably aware, in the 2010s, the city put out an RFP for this property. The city put out an RFP for this property largely at the request of the community. As you probably know, this was I think, what you could identify as a police hotspot. It was a homeless encampment, and it was an open-air drug market, and the community wanted something done. The RFP was issued. Uptown Rentals was the successful applicant and awarded the RFP. Importantly to note on both of these fronts, the city's RFP specifically called for density, mixed-use, multi-family residential development on this project. The key word there being high level of density. The plan that was put together and advanced initially by Dan Schimberg and his colleagues at Uptown Rentals also called for high density, multi-use and mixed use and multifamily residential development on this site. They engaged in a process with the Mount Auburn Community Council. The Mount Auburn Community Council did not object to this use of the land. Since that time, we've also been in contact both briefly with the Mount Auburn Community Council, but also with the Community Improvement Corporation in Mount Auburn. They did not provide a letter of support, but they did not object. The reason they didn't provide a letter of support is that they said they provide letters of support when things go to the Planning Commission, not necessarily for a variance hearing. So we don't have that in hand. But we do think there's a body of evidence that certainly indicates that there is a longstanding interpretation or longstanding intention to develop this property in a manner that has high density and is residential. And we think this certainly meets the community, Mount Auburn community's interest in keeping students out of a lot of those single-family homes, keeping them closer to campus so that the Mount Auburn community can continue to be a neighborhood of single-family homes. So we are confident that we have strong support moving forward with this project. Any questions, David? Or that would conclude my comments.
I don't have any questions for you at this time.
All right, thank you.
So then just a brief overview on the site. So we've got the CECMT zoning in the northwest corner of the property, and then the rest of it is in the OGT district. We've been working closely with Wes and the zoning staff on the building placement, and outside of the one variance we're asking for the setback in that northwest corner. We feel the building's placed appropriately, the height limitations and everything is all kind of working out. We're meeting the other front setback, side setback, and rear setback requirements. So we've got, and I'll let Brian get into a little bit more detail about the building later, but as far as the site goes, we've got one common vehicular access point in the middle of the site that will lead you to the 2.5 levels of garage that connect the east and west wings of the building underneath. And then on the east side of there, we've got a loading area that'll serve both buildings. And then the turnaround in the back, we've worked with fire, just for fire access and emergency vehicle access, as well as the loading dock access. From a pedestrian standpoint, call it the front door is kind of the northwest corner of the site with the amenity area and courtyard with direct pedestrian access to McMillan. And then interior to the buildings, which aren't shown on here, we've got different amenities for the residents that will be interior to the site. And then we've got just you can see to the west, we've got pedestrian connection to Vine Street, and then a pedestrian connections internal to the site. The topo is pretty severe on the site, so we've got a lot of elevation to work with. McMillan slopes from east to west, and then Vine from north to south. And so call it the low, and if you've been out there, you can see the kind of the low area of the site is kind of that southwest corner of the building. And so, Brian and his team did a good job of trying to work with the topo and how this building is situated. And so that's the lower level of the garage, is down in that southwest corner. And then we kind of step up as you go east. But there's a series of retaining walls along McMillan, kind of in that northeast corner, and then along the back corner to the south. The lines in green are some retaining walls just because of the topography. But we've worked hard and kind of coordinated together and trying to minimize the amount of import-export of dirt. So, and then on top of that, within every infill site, you're going to have some utilities to work around. We've got stormwater detention. We worked with MSD on that and kind of through that coordinated site review process. And then we do have a sanitary sewer, combination sewer kind of reroute around the building. And so we could, obviously we've been through the coordinated site review process. We've been working with the city on all those different things. One more thing to mention is we do have a right-of-way dedication along McMillan. And that was at the request of DOTE to give their minimum distance that they want for right-of-way to face a curb, just to give enough pedestrian width along the street. But we will have, on top of the site improvements, there will be streetscape enhancements that are being worked on right now, but new curb, new sidewalk, street trees, potentially street lighting to kind of mimic the rest of kind of what has happened in this corridor. So outside of that, I'm happy to answer any other questions related to the site.
Yeah, just quickly in terms of vehicular traffic, it looks like there's 700 parking spaces proposed.
That's
the
correct.
development,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And I know that a lot of these, as student housing, there's not a whole lot of car use for some of the residents this close to campus, but what impacts do you think at all this will have on traffic in the area, either positive or negative? And is there anything you've done to help mitigate that?
So yeah, we've talked to DOTE. They're not requiring the full traffic study. They do want kind of a trip generation, what they call it, to see how many trips that are going to be generated by the development. But they're not anticipating any public, widening or street, call it roadway improvements along McMillan. Their interpretation is that the existing corridor can handle the traffic that's going to be generated by this development, but they do want us to show those numbers. Just in general with a student housing development, or really any kind of housing development, you don't get those like an office where you get heavy peak in the morning, heavy peak in the afternoon when people are all exiting and entering at the same time. It's kind of sporadic. And so based on initial conversations with DOTE, we feel like the existing McMillan and Vine Street and the surrounding streets can handle the traffic from the development.
What will be the main sort of ingress and egress for vehicular traffic? How will they get into
So that main
parking
street right
garage?
down the middle there. Yep.
Okay.
One access point to the garage. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The access point further east or to the right of the page is more of a like service utility, like a Duke Energy equipment access point.
Got it. Okay. Is that drive or street right there? Is that currently existing? I'm just trying to orient myself.
No, there
with
was a public street there. I believe it was called Macaulay Street. Yep. It used to be a public street. It's since been vacated. Since been vacated and ownership has changed hands. But yeah, there used to be a public street. Yeah, right through there.
Got it. Okay.
And so that was the other part of the equation with the location of this curb cut. It's kind of mid-block between Auburn and Vine. And so you're not going to see a lot of the backup queuing, affecting the major intersections.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, you're right. I mean, there will likely be less cars with this being a student-oriented development.
Okay. All right. I don't think I have any other questions right now.
All right, then just to round it all out here, like Mike had said, the site was an abandoned quarry, and it's been partially filled in and built over the years since its original use. But there still is that substantial depression from the original quarry, and you can kind of see from the existing site that very large depression sits in here. And we have about 50-foot elevation change, the lowest corner being this southeast or southwest corner, and the north east corner of McMillan being the high point. We're proposing one building, like Olivia said, utilizing the existing quarry depression for that parking garage. So we're basically sitting it in there and terracing out from it to try to minimize the amount of export or import of earth onto the site, which kind of drove a lot of the design that you're currently seeing here today. The building is a 7-level student housing building above the average grade plane. The portion of the building above the average grade plane is divided, in the north-south that we had talked about here with Mike by this fire lane access road. This also serves as our parking entrance, which enters into here. It's the trash and the loading for both wings of the building, as well as recycling removal. We also have, basically, Uber Eats or Uber or taxi or someone's coming to drop somebody off. We even have the ability to handle pickups and drop-offs on our site, all maneuvering on our site. So we're not actually, like Mike had said, trying to impact. We're trying to make the least amount of impact to the street. To achieve this fire access road, and this is actually the first of the 3 asks that we have for the variance, is that we need to be able to come down and create that hammerhead turnaround for the fire truck. What that does is, due to the grade change, we need to put a retaining wall on the back, and it basically starts at 0, pitches up to here to about an 18-foot high wall at its maximum point, and then pitches back down towards the west. The building is, commonly referred to as a 5/2. That's composed of 2 levels of type 1B concrete structure with 5 levels of type 3A wood construction above it. And so really what we're looking at here, and so it's not a high-rise building. Oh, there's no reason that button. But it kind of meets what Doug had talked about, the density requirements that we're talking about. We're proposing basically 590 residential units within that building. There's 27,000 square feet of amenities. We have 715 parking spaces. And like Mike had said, it straddles 2 zones. We have the CCMT and the OGT. The CCMT is just this very small corner right up at the top, basically at McMillan and Vine. The majority of the site is OGT. And we know that, CCMT does not have FAR, but OGT does. And you can see we've kind of submitted to you the FAR calculations about contributing area and non-contributing area in the building. And our requirement under the zoning code is OGT is 2.1. And so the second request that we're asking from you is a very minor increase of 0.17 to the FAR, which would increase us to a 2.27 FAR. And what that really does, as I make my way through the plans, it allows us to finish out the upper level of the floor plate. So that small increase basically brings the building up to about 695,909 square feet, right? And it's a very small percentage relative to the increase in FAR. And so what we'll do is we'll just kind of quickly run through the plans for you, just so you can start to see. And this will be part of the third ask for us, which is part of the zoning code does not allow for units to be on the ground level. Like we had talked about, there's 50 feet of elevation change across this site. And so one, we do have units at the average grade plane, which would be considered the first level, but to actually navigate that 50 feet of elevation change, we have units that are close to the ground plane or adjacent grade. The units will be screened with landscaping buffer, due to the setbacks around the property. So I think we can shield them. So you can start to see as we're coming out of the main hole, the lowest level of parking, we have a few units that line the Vine side, which is facing towards that community park. As we make our way through, we start kind of terracing out. So you see the garage gets bigger, the units stay on that side. And then we make our way up. This is about grade at the corner of McMillan and Vine. And that's basically, as Mike said, the main entry to the building, most of the amenity spaces. And as you can see, this is the main entrance to the garage. So you can kind of come in and navigate down through the space. But as you could start to see, we will have, if this is average grade plane, we will have units on the back side that are technically at grade. And then as we kind of make our way up, by the time you get to the second level is the first time we can realize the full building plate due to the elevation changes. And we will have some units along McMillan. And this would be that buffered with landscape. We have, almost 46 feet due to the setbacks and things like that from McMillan. So we'll be able to buffer those pieces. There's also that secondary entrance. You can see the drop-offs over here for each building. So each building kind of has a smaller lobby associated with any vehicular drop-offs or pickups or Uber Eats or whatever, airport shuttles, all those wonderful things. And so those are basically the three asks. We can certainly kind of go through, and as you make your way at the building, we have two central courtyards, one of which is over structure that we are going to put a swimming pool and have some additional exterior amenities out there. And the courtyard within the east side of the building, that is actually on grade for the most part. There's a little bit of the garage that sits under it, but that one is more going to be a passive courtyard with greenery and those types of things. So that's basically the three asks that we have, plus a kind of a very brief overview of the building. And I turn it back to you if you have any questions.
Yeah, when you say three asks, are you saying three pieces of zoning relief that you're requesting today?
Correct.
And are you combining the first floor use and the two separate zoning districts as one ask?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. I'm as I look at the staff report, it's
There's
laid out
technically
as
four, but yeah,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
one ask is because of the two different zoning.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, no, well, I mean, I have questions about the height. What is the height?
So the height off of the average grade plane, so we calculated average grade plane is roughly about 73 feet to the roof,
Okay.
to the top of the parapet. So the roof is a little bit lower than that. So we gave you the total dimension of that package.
Got it. Okay. How will it read from that main intersection there at Vine and McMillan? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, it'll read, so this point right here, we will actually have 6 stories. It'll appear as a 6-story building. And then obviously as you make your way up McMillan, it basically comes down to about 5 to 4 stories at the high point. And then behind the park that sits right here, you're actually going to have a total of almost 8 stories sticking out of the ground. Because this is the absolute lowest point of the site right here.
Yeah.
Well, and David, you can see this in the massing diagram that Brian is displaying right now, but across the street, the University of Cincinnati is also going to construct a building that is of, a similar height. So this, I think we are consistently fitting into the context of the neighborhood, considering the development that's occurring there.
Sure. Has that development gone through the approval process yet?
It has gone through the approval process. I don't know specifically where it stands. I would imagine I know Mr. Schimberg pays pretty close attention to this.
It is under construction.
It's under construction.
Okay.
Towers, the crane towers are up. It's substantially taller than this.
Got it. Okay. Do you know, Mr. Schimberg, do you know how tall it is?
I think it's 11 or 12 stories. In the tallest section of the building.
Okay. And that's on the north side of McMillan there, right?
It's yes, it's between Taft and McMillan. It's what they used to consider block 1. It's kind of it's across the street. Yeah. That's between, it's really Calhoun, because it turns into Calhoun there, but it's between Calhoun and McMillan. It's north of McMillan, yes.
Got it. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions right now. Anything else from the applicant team before we move on to the planning department?
No, that's all we had in our presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Wes, did you want to jump in here?
Good morning. I don't really want to I don't have any other comments other than the staff report, but I will just say that you're just asking about the height, but there were no zoning concerns about the height. The CCMT allows a 97-foot height, and the OG allows 100 feet, I think. So I don't know what the height is in feet, but off the top of my head, but I don't think there's a zoning problem with the height.
Yeah, there's no relief needed for the height, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Do you, Wes, do you know if that would be true without connected communities, the connected communities designation, which
Well,
gives the
the connected communities in this area, the T designation allows an additional 12 feet of height. So in the OG, then you'd be allowed 112 feet of height, and then the CCM, it's really originally 85 feet, but I mentioned 97 reflected the additional 12 feet allowed.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Wes. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
Well, one more thing you mentioned about the dorm across the street and the review process. I believe the city the city's not involved in review of state projects. So that project, I believe, is reviewed by the state of Ohio building department or whatever they do up there. So like we didn't do anything with that.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering if it had come through here in planning. Okay. Thanks, Wes. Appreciate it. Okay. I'll turn it back over to the applicants. Anything you all would like to say in response to any of my questions or Wes's statements or anything else in closing or otherwise?
I don't think we have anything additional to add. We do agree and hope that everyone else agrees here that we're building something that's going to, fit into the context of the site and the new developments around it. And we look forward to moving forward with this project and actually redeveloping on the site and bringing some life to it.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll leave it at that. So I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report. The testimony here today was really helpful. Getting to know this project a little bit better and everything that you're requesting and the scale of the project. As I look through the zoning relief that's requested that I need to consider today, I believe that this is all very modest relief that's being requested. I think it's reasonable for the area, the surrounding development, and I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code of this project. So based on all of that, I am going to approve the project. I mentioned at the beginning, I need to formalize that, or I mentioned at the beginning that typically takes about 2 weeks. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. And so as soon as I finish that, I'll put it into a PDF and I'll email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. And so you all have a copy of that really just moments after it's complete. I know some of you are familiar with that process. If you'd like a status update on where I am with that decision, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll get that to you as quickly as I can. But otherwise, that's it. Any questions about that process or anything else? Okay. All right. Great. Well, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
All right. Take care, everyone.